In recording studios, there's a lot of different ways to have your things set up, depending on what you're trying to do. If you're just in an apartment, if you're in like a home studio and it's kind of like hybrid workflow, or if you're in Nashville and you have an entire house as a studio, you can imagine there's a lot of different ways to do things. Now, I have been to all of these types of studios and I have tried to essentially steal all of the best ideas. Everything that I walk in, I go, ooh, that's a good idea. I have implemented into my own setup to just make my studio as fun as possible and as easy to use. With that being said, there's one thing that no matter what kind of setup you do, always remains consistent, and I call it the everything mic. It's actually kind of hilarious because it is true. Like almost every single studio you go to, there is this one single everything mic. Now I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, but before I do that, let me just show you so you get a glance at what's going on here in this studio with how things are set up, because it kind of makes the everything mic that much more awesome / funnier. All right, so the concept with my studio is to be able to get as much work done as possible, as easily as possible, and to try to have as much fun while getting the most amount of things done. The setup, the design of how my studio operates is always on, and essentially there's a mic or a channel or a line for everything. Over here is this guitar amp wall. There's a combo over here. There's a guitar. It's basically set up so you can press one button, you plug your guitar in, you hear it hitting the pedal board and everything. Just comes out of the speakers. Over on this side, we have a couple synthesizers, which are set up so that you can just touch them and hear them. This is the drum booth. This is obviously designed to record and play drums. And there's a second little rig that controls my computer back there. I also open the door and put room mics out in the other room to capture a really big, far room sound. Also in here, there's like this extra little zone over here. You can see there's like a little headphone setup, little table, a microphone set up for vocals. Sometimes we'll swap this out for like acoustic guitar or something else if we're gonna do it. This is booth number 2. This is like accessory booth. We have the guitar cabs, as I mentioned, where we can switch to the cabinet. Run in here. We have a microphone that is always ready to go. We also have this microphone set up here. We did some upright bass in here, but this is just also ready to go for anything. All right, so you might be picking up here that the design of this studio is to have everything on and everything ready to go. And many other studios, you've probably seen if you've watched some of the Epic Studio tours on the other channel, how they're set up. It's the let's just be creative and get it. But even when you have a setup like this where everything is on and everything is ready to go, there still exists this powerful everything mic. And once you see it, you're gonna realize how funny it is because you probably have it set up and are sitting next to it right now. This is the everything mic. And the secret about the everything mic is it actually has almost nothing to do with which microphone it is. It has more to do with the functionality of there's a mic right next to you going through a chain that you love, a really solid chain that works on basically anything. In this case, it's an API 3124 hitting an 1176 compressor, and it goes to input 21. Now that is the value of the everything chain. It's on a good mic pre, it's got a compressor. If you want it, you can use it. If not, you can bypass it, but it's right nearby, it's ready to go. You can use it for vocals, you can use it for overdubs. The power of the everything mic is it's here and it's on, and it's close and it's ready. And this is what I think is really cool. It sort of connects all of us, is that whether it's a SM7, condenser mic, a tube mic, an Eden, a C800, whatever the heck yours might be, you're probably also just gonna have a microphone right next to you. And I just think it's so funny to be able to have all of these different setups that we all do where we're trying to solve every single problem, and kind of no matter what, we're still gonna have that one mic likely that we started with. And I can think of setups like Tommy Profit, for instance. Tommy Profit is an extremely successful composer and producer and writer, and he has an incredible home studio. But he also just has one mic right next to his desk. It's like the power of this everything mic is it's really just convenience, it's readiness. Oh, I have an idea right now. Cool. Let's just use this. It's already up. Boom, let's go. And we could have this back and forth because sometimes there's a collaborative thing that happens when the person is right next to you and you're kind of like working through something and you can't, especially if you're me, you can't articulate the specific notes, but you can get there and you can almost point the notes out and say, try this or whatever. Or you grab the guitar and you're both like looking at each other while you do it, or you're working it out with the keyboard or whatever. Being like right next to each other, there is something special about that and change the whole vibe and the whole feeling of whatever you're working on. Before I was here in Nashville, I lived in Los Angeles and worked at a big commercial tracking facility. We had booths, we would do vocals out in the tracking room. And even then, occasionally, depending on the project, we'd bring a $10,000 251 into the control room and stick it right next to the couch or stick it right next to the Pro Tools rig or the console or whatever it was, and we'd track right then and there. And then when I moved to Nashville and I started touring around different studios here, I saw that it was really common for the singer to not be in the booth, but to be right next to the engineer or the producer, because you have that connection of being right next to each other and working through something and just being like super immediate about it. Now, since we're talking about microphones in the everything mic chain, if you will, this is the Warm Audio 251. This thing has been my everything mic for a pretty long time. It has worked on vocals over and over and over and over. Another mic that I absolutely love is this mic, which is the Soyuz 17. Now, this is the FET version of the 17 mic, and I'm hoping to be able to try the tube version out soon. But this FET version of the mic, this is like a rare black nickel, I think is the finish. And this mic sounds so good and works on so many different things. These two mics are both large diaphragm condensers. One is tube, and I think this one goes for $700, and the Soyuz FET goes for about $2,500, I believe. So these are like really nice microphones. But as I said before, obviously you can use any microphone, and the price isn't always what dictates whether it's the right mic for the job. Sometimes it's just, does it sound the best for that thing in the context of the song? The last thing I'll go over is a couple chains that you could consider. Obviously, if you're just starting out, whatever you have, the interface, if it has a built-in mic pre, that's the chain. Later, you can invest in a better mic pre or maybe a compressor or something like that to have in the chain. When I started, I had an Apollo and a Focusrite. I went from the Focusrite to the Apollo. Now I'm on the Antelope Audio. I've done the Symphony. I've done a bunch of different interfaces. But the first chain that I moved up to was the WA73. I have some down here. The WA273, which is 2 channels. You get 2 preamps, high-pass filters. You get a line trim on the output, which is very, very helpful. Now, since I have a variety of different mic pre's, sometimes that everything chain will change depending on if I get to have some forethought or not. But right now, it's plugged into the API 3124. And then, as I said, hitting the 1176 Universal Audio compressor. Another great compressor on the everything chain, depending on what I'm trying to do, is the Warm WA1B. Now, I've been recording through that and using it as my mix compressor on as a hardware insert. And that thing is absolutely great. It's very transparent, and it's kind of like a stupid proof compressor. You can basically turn the knobs almost any direction and it's going to sound good. The WA1B is a much more cost-effective compressor. Obviously, there are other compressors you can get that are even cheaper than that. I'll put a link to all the gear that I use here in the studio, stuff that I've tested before. I have links to all of those. Those take you to Sweetwater, who's sponsoring this video. Thank you to the friends at Sweetwater. Always a bunch of great deals going on there. I'll link to some good ones down below. If you're an artist or a songwriter and you're looking to finish a record or make a record and you've got a bunch of songs, head on over to andrewmastersmusic.com and reach out for some production. We're going to be building out more of the music production side of the studio and the business, and we'll be documenting that as we do it. But if you're looking to be a part of it and come here and make your record with me and my producer friend Gabe, who you've probably seen in other videos, head on over to the website and let's make some records. See you in the next one.